Hello everybody. It looks like we are live. Welcome to my channel. This is Alicia Dianne Art. I am Alicia and I'm happy to be drawing with you guys today. We're going to be continuing and not studying, and thinking like studying the masters. We're going to be continuing and making a graphic novel, making my first graphic novel. It's Jaydi's story. I know I've given you guys the synopsis a few times, but if you have never been to the channel before, which I'm assuming maybe you haven't, it's basically a story of a young girl in Eastern Africa who is trying to make sense of her faith amidst chaos and religious tensions in her village. There's prosecution, there's murder, there's a lot of, taboo around belief systems in this town, which is a fictional town based off of a real town in southern Kenya. But that being said, I'm going to continue inking. We're doing inking today. We've been doing inking, I think, this whole series thus far. I think I might have done a little bit of watercolor, but I think we've done primarily inking. But let's get right to it. I'm going to switch my camera down and flip the camera. So if it's upside down for a second, just give it a minute. I'm going to flip it. So let's go ahead. I have to look behind me because that's where my computer screen is. So please don't mind it. I'm continuing in this scene. It's sort of like the introduction of my protagonist's best friend, who is, make sure I have it as clear as possible. My protagonist's best friend, who is Sabrina Mwangi, and she's a character. I wouldn't say she's like a main character, but she's definitely a significant character. So I guess the difference would be she's not like huge throughout the entire story, but she does have an impact on my character's choices, and my character's actually significant choices have a lot to do with this character right here. I'm not going to tell you why because I'm not going to spoil it. You do have to actually read it. And I'm not trying to do spoilers here, but I do want to give you a little insight into my characters. And this character actually reminds me of a best friend that I had many years ago when I was close in age to Jaydi. Jaydi in this story is on the brink of 13, and I was a little bit probably younger, but about the same age when I had this best friend who reminds me a lot of Sabrina. They say, like, write what you know, and I don't know that I did that intentionally, but I think subconsciously I did write a lot of characters based on people that I know, and I think that's more what it means rather than literally writing like a story of your own life. I think it has a lot more to do with creating characters and scenarios that maybe you found yourself in. It might not be exactly the same, but based off of those scenarios, like telling your own experience through the eyes of this character. Whether or not your character is like you can kind of, if you've built a strong enough character, then you probably can think of how this character would react in that sort of situation that you've been in. How would your character react? Would your character react like you? Would your character react like your father would, maybe? Would your character go into a rage? I don't know. Depending on the scenario and depending on the character that you've built, you can really kind of be unlimited in that sense. I thought many times that I might have been done with my inking by now, but I think the important thing is to just keep going. If you're not on schedule, especially if you are doing a personal project like I am, no one is This is not a grant. This is not like, really out there as per yet. It's really just barely starting. And I'm, pretty much doing all of that myself, trying to do whatever I can to kind of, I don't know, basically starting to get the word out. I don't think I've formally gotten any word out about my comic yet. I talked to people who have been to my workshops at like the zoo. I talk on here on my channel, and to some people that are close to me, not everybody. Some people I tell certain things about. I think I might be a little bit protective about my project, so I don't go around like overly like sharing to everyone, because at the same time, it's your baby. You don't want anybody like giving you any unwanted feedback. But at the same time, I've noticed that I'm consciously more open to sharing my project, especially now that it's so close to being released. And I actually know that I have to be active in promoting, and so I'm aware of that, even though a lot of it is probably still subconsciously. So I go and I will tell people who are artistically inclined, or people I speak to who are interested in comics, or that I know, and just tell them like, yeah, that's like, not like, hey, I'm making this thing, but like just kind of bring it up if it fits into the conversation. Just being aware of points in the conversation, like if someone tells me about something that they're releasing, then I think, okay, well, I can tell you what I'm doing. Or if someone says, basically any given information about their interest in comics, or their interest even in books in general, then I might mention what I'm doing. So it's definitely more on the table of things I'm willing to talk about with people than it used to be, for sure, especially before I knew it was a graphic novel. Maybe that's what I should talk about today. I always kind of come here like, alright guys, what are we talking about today? Let's find out. As I just start, going off and talking about random whatever. I do try to keep it on topic between like my creative career and hopefully yours as well. But I don't know. I think I like being a little bit free about it. But at the same time, kind of wonder if I'm opening myself up enough to the possibilities of this channel, and with not being more like a structured sort of a thing. I think in that sense I probably need like some type of a manager. So if you are a content manager, please hit me up. I might be willing to hire you, because I would like to see what the possibilities are. I just don't have the time to like go and plan it all, because my predominant work is doing the comics, doing the art, doing whatever it is that's going to keep me creative and get me drawing better, painting better, making better stuff. Don't have the time necessarily to content plan like that. I don't know. I would like someone to help me out with that. Maybe I need to get a mentor or something. I don't know. Anyway, I think maybe I'm going over my head. Probably don't need to even. I'm totally getting off topic, am I? Sorry if I'm going way off topic. Anyway, I wanted to talk about, I just said it 2 minutes ago and I forgot. It was something I was going to talk about. You see, that's why. My memory does not serve me well a lot of the times. But dang, I was going to talk about something very specific. Completely, entirely forgot. Oh well. It'll come back to me. It always does. Knock on cork. Knock on cork. Alright. But let's see. Other than me forgetting what I was going to talk about, why is it so hard to remember? Anyway, this is Abia. She's also, I don't know how much I've talked about her in my videos. I don't want to give too much away with her either, but she is a villain. I think I can say that she's a villain. How much of a villain? What exactly the role she plays is? That's a little bit more, I guess, up to personal opinion, or you know, I guess you can decide whether you think what her role is and everything. But anyway, she's not a very pleasant person in my story. And what else? Can you guys see what I'm doing? I think so. It's fairly clear. Alright. And let me think. Dang, I hate when I do that, when I forget what I'm talking about. I totally had a topic and forgot it. Oh well. So it was going to be like talking about what you're making. Was that it? Talking about your content? Or something along those lines. Alright, let's see what we can do with it. How can I discuss, like, talking about what you're putting out into the world with others? I don't know. I think it is. I have heard many times that it's that, you know, what is it? Don't throw your pearls to swine. That's actually a biblical verse. I think it's in Proverbs. But basically, yeah, don't throw. Actually, no, I think it's in the New Testament. I think Jesus said that. But anyway, basically, don't throw your pearls to swine. So if you know already somebody's going to chew it up and spit it out, like maybe an unsupportive relative or even a teacher, professor who has been critical of you or in the past has shown that they are not terribly supportive of your work or your ideas or whatever, or even like a critical sibling or a critical, you know, exclamation, not exclamation, quotation marks, friend. If they've been super critical of you, or they haven't, or they laugh at your ideas or something like that, that's not the person to share, you know, your ideas with. No, they shouldn't be someone that just pats you on the back and tells you everything you do is perfect either. But you do want, if you're going to tell people about the work that you're making, they should be supportive. They should have your back. They should be like in your corner, just tell you to go for it, you know. You don't want anybody, more than anything, you don't want anybody to tell you to change your idea, or someone who's tell you to not bother with your idea. Biggest thing is like someone who tells you not to bother with your idea. And I take back change. It is okay to get feedback. It's okay to get trustworthy feedback from maybe a professor that you trust, or someone who you know is a professional. Listen to this part. They have to be a professional and have made something similar to you to be able to give you corrective feedback, like telling you to make alterations. If they're telling you to make alterations in your project, then they should have made something already very similar and preferably successful. if they're going to give you that kind of feedback. If they are already successful and they are a professional in the industry or something like that, then, you know, maybe certain things you can, you know, take into consideration, especially if they're giving good advice. But I would also say, like, if they're giving you advice, also take every advice with a grain of salt. I judge every advice. I don't care who it's from. I always, you know, think, okay, I respect their opinion, but if it doesn't feel like it's right for me, then I won't take it. It has to be from the person who is in the position to give you the feedback, but also you have to kind of go with your guts too. Like, if there's one thing that's really important to your story and you know it is, then I wouldn't take it out if someone, even if a professional said, take that out. If I really felt like it was really important, then I would really not do that. And these are also things, a lot of these things are things I've heard from other professionals too, and what they do in their career and how they've made choices. I don't just make up the stuff that I'm telling and repeating on here. Some of it is my personal opinion, but a lot of it is backed by the talks I listen to from professionals who've done this before, who've done similar things before, who have been in my shoes or been where I'm going. So I like to kind of at least reiterate things that I feel like will work for you, or will work, you know, for us, if we're in the same boat. That is, if you're trying to, you know, release something, whether it's a comic or a book or some type of an creative project, particularly an illustrated one that involves artwork and design. So I got these in. I'll go ahead and do my face details, I think. And this one I'm going to use the 005, so this one is a little bit smaller detail. What else can I say for today as far as getting, I don't know, what am I trying to say? I swear I had a point here somewhere. Let me think, what else can I talk about? Oh, I think I was talking about getting your characters from your own experiences. Is that what I was going to talk about today? I know, I'm such a mess. I mean, that makes sense. I think I kind of went into that and went over everything I wanted to say about that. I don't know what else I would add other than also try to get information about the location where you're basing your stories. So like I told you about this one, it's based on a fictional town in East Africa, but even though it's fictional, I still had to do a lot of research, and I don't know if I've gone into like the research I went into, but I feel like I still have a whole lot to learn, like, even because there's so much, especially when you're doing topics about other cultures. There's so much to learn. I mean, I would recommend using cultures that you're familiar with, but I will say that there was a familiar aspect to this that I pulled from, and I used, like, not all, but similar situations that I've been in to get, like, character reactions. That being said, the book is a fantasy, so obviously there's things in here that, you know, have nothing to do with my, you know, personal experiences on the exterior. But at the same time, I don't know, when you do fantasy, it's a little different, isn't it? It's like, I don't know, I think you still need to do research, don't you? And I did, in some aspects. I mean, there's certain scenarios that I kind of pictured, but at the same time, you still pull from things that you know. I pulled from a lot of stories. I actually read a lot of fables too. A lot of fables from the area and from around the continent to kind of get my ideas. So I don't know, either way, I think you really need to do research to get your content right, I guess, or believable. And even when you're making ridiculous, because I'll tell you, there's some like crazy stuff in here. Not necessarily in this volume, because this is the opening book. This is the first one of the series. It's a little bit more introductory. There is some kind of crazy stuff, but it's more along the lines of introducing you into the world, and then we kind of take a deep dive. So it's definitely not the craziest volume. But I think it's probably the most essential one, because none of the rest of it makes sense without this one. But I've already given good and serious thought into the next one I'm making. This one is going to be really long, but I've already given thought to the next one I want to make. The next series I want to make, actually. The next series I want to make is actually a true story. And it's my grandfather's story. Before he passed away in, 2004, he left a near finished manuscript of a book that he was writing. And he never finished it completely, but it was almost there. And I've read that manuscript, and it's his whole, basically, autobiography. And I really want to put that out. He was an activist, civil rights activist, reverend, preacher, priest. And I really want to make a graphic novel of his life story. So that's going to be the next project after this one. Really good what I'm trying to do here. Going to go ahead and put in some of these details. All the rest of it is going to be with color, so with color inks, except for the borders, of course. I just finished watching The Crown, and it's been a while since I sat down to watch a whole series, especially not in the background. There was several episodes I watched in the background, as I was working on this comic and things like that. But I think most of the last season, if not all of the last season, I just sat down and watched. It's such a, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's really a bittersweet story. It's so good. It's the writing is great, the direction, all of that is great. It's a great show. I don't think it's maybe for the super young. If you're probably a teenager or something, I don't know, you might be bored, you might not know what people are. A lot of people in the story I never heard of, didn't know about, But it's such a good story. Oh god, it's so good. If you want to be a writer or producer or showrunner or something, I definitely would put that on the list of things to watch. Such a good drama. I just had to get that off my chest because I just finished the finale yesterday, like the series finale, and it was such a tragedy, such a bittersweet ending. But anyway, it's weird. It's like my whole book is about, like, the underlying concept is about colonization. You know, basically how so many of these countries, like particularly Britain, have, you know, come into Africa and, you know, divided it up and stole land and stole resources. And it's ironic. It's ironic when you watch a show like that. It's all about the empire, and it's like these are portraying these guys as, like, you know, people that you should root for and feel sorry for and, you know, feel empathy for. And I do, you really feel it when you watch the show, but it's still kind of ironic when I come back to my comic and I'm like, oh yeah, they've also colonized and taken over, and all of these Commonwealth countries, which, you know, basically the entire continent of Africa is Commonwealth to European nations, or has been, and, you know, many have gotten so-called independence, but not really, you know. Colonization doesn't really go away. It's like a stain that corrupts for generations. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say never, but it hasn't. And who knows how long it will take to really recover. So I don't know. It's ironic that I'm even watching the show because of how involved and interested I am in spreading the word of colonization around, because, you know, it's not taught to us in school. And that's really a big part of the motivation that I got to really push this myself to get this book right, was my wanting to share that with a generation of people who might not otherwise get it, because it's still not taught in schools, in general education, as it should be, not the truth as it is. So it's one of my goals, is just kind of getting people to understand why we have extreme poverty as we do. Why do some countries with, you know, huge amount of natural resources, why are they in extreme poverty? It's colonization. So that's one of the things I like to talk about. So I don't know, maybe it's something that you want to think about when you're making, I mean, obviously that's not the goal of this, that's not like the main goal is, you know, just so people know. I mean, the main goal is really to inspire people and hopefully even to get them to think of their faith and how important that is to them, and would they be willing to give up things in their life to believe in something that they felt was right. That's like the bigger goal. But there's also other goals. There's the educational aspect. There's the creative aspect. Just wanting people to, getting certain demographics of people to be interested in comics, interested in art making, or interested in the, I guess, the potential of making comics, or any sort of cartooning or animation or creative storytelling, film even. So I don't know, it's bigger than just, you know, making the comic for me. I have, like a lot of people do, you know, I have goals with this. I hope for it to do something. I don't want it to just be another book on the shelf. So, I mean, that's what I was getting ready to talk about, though, is just like, if you are planning or are in the process of making a book, or have thought about it, do you want it to have a bigger purpose than just being, you know, somebody's Saturday night entertainment, or whatever the case may be? I mean, it's great to entertain. I hope this story does entertain the pants off of you, you know. I created it, you know, or, you know, developed the story with the idea of it being entertaining, you know. I wanted to entertain, of course, but it's like, it's bigger than that. And I think that it's important for all of us as creative people to have an idea that's bigger than just entertaining alone. It should entertain, yes, and it should also, like, make you think a little. Like, I don't know if I'm interested in anything nowadays that doesn't make me think a little. It's gotta have something in there, something else, for me to really be interested. Like, even if it's silly, like, I might have told you guys already, my favorite TV show, my favorite, like, you know, other than my favorite, like, regular go-to TV show, or all around, my favorite show right now is Married at First Sight. And it's a reality show. It's, you know, got its silly moments, and it's, you know, it's what it is. It's a reality show, right? But at the same time, it's like, at the end of the day, it's really like, can love prevail? You know, I've always been interested in seeing people in dating situations. I've always watched dating shows. It's always captivated me. I used to watch, oh my gosh, I used to watch, what was that show called? When you couldn't see the the dating game. I used to watch that when I was a kid. I mean, it's silly, right? But I watched shows. I guess those are like, game shows probably are like the original reality show, aren't they? In a sense, kinda. Anyway, I used to watch those types of things. I used to watch Blind Date when I was a teenager. I mean, I've always been interested in, I guess, love stories and seeing if people can, like, figure it out. I don't know. It's like, ultimately you're rooting for these people to figure it out, you know, and get it right. But sometimes they don't. And it's like, then it's like rooting to see if the person can pick themselves back up after heartbreak, you know. And I think, you know, that's really the entertainment in it. It's like, all right, can you survive this? Can you survive love? But anyway, I say all this to just say that I think it should be something deeper than just pure entertainment. That's all. That's all I mean to say. I mean, even if it's simple, like love, that's fine. But like something more than just like, oh, LOL, you know? I don't know. But maybe it's something that you can think about, like what is important to you. What is it that, you know, if there was one message that you wanted to get out, you know, while you're here on this earth for however many years, and what is that? what could it be? You know, what could you talk about through your stories, through your art, that is important to you? You know, is it your culture? A big part of, you know, what got me going was this also, this desire and this love to like really, you know, put black culture, put African culture in the forefront, and, you know, make a fun story, make a interesting story, make an educational story, make a exciting story in a place where you wouldn't necessarily expect it, in like a ghetto in East Africa, basically. But I love that because it's showing something else. And I feel like I'm talking about, you know, my own culture when I think like that. I don't know. But I think that makes it kind of interesting, you know? Not everyone is like from the suburbs in, you know, Milwaukee, or I don't know. Not everyone is from the suburbs in general, New Hampshire, wherever you're from, or Upper East Side, whatever. You know, people come from everywhere, and they still have all the same issues, same problems, the same struggles with their faith, the same struggles with crushes, and but, you know, obviously the circumstances and the consequences in different locations are different. So I just think there's so much potential with comics, there's so much potential with animation. We can tell any kind of story we want to. We really can. We can tell the fairy tales, but they don't have to look like what the fairy tales that we grew up with. They can look like this. Just saying. Just saying that you have options, you know? You have options. You can talk about your own culture. I see so many, like, one thing I notice, like, when you're a person of color and you start, you know, drawing usually and telling stories, kind of draw what you know, what you've seen, what you've heard, what you've experienced. And I noticed that, you know, I used to draw, and I've seen a lot of young artists draw, you know, and they're artists of color, but they'll draw their protagonist with, like, you know, blue eyes and blonde hair. And there's nothing wrong with, of course, with having blue eyes and blonde hair, but you can do more than that. Especially if, like, that's not even, you know, the world that you come from. You can do your world. You can draw a character that looks like you, or your cousin, or your family member, you know. And if your cousin or your mother or whatever has blue eyes and blonde hair, that's fine. That's, of course. But I'm saying we have potential to show every type of person, not just one type or two types. We can do every type of person. That's what makes art special. Okay, I just had to make sure that I'm still recording. Excuse me. I'm thinking about these things and more, especially when like now that I'm like teaching a younger generation, like actually teaching a younger generation, and I, you know, want them to do their best, you know, I want them to tell the diverse stories that we so need. Because diverse stories like help us all, don't they? They add to all of our lives. I may not sound like I hate like to sound like whenever I sound like a afternoon special or something. But it's important, that's all. It's important. That is all. What else can we discuss during our time here today? Thinking about it. I'm thinking. I don't know, guys. Let's just finish up this page. See what we can do here. I'm gonna ink this page up, do my lines. If you have any questions about any of the supplies that I use, you can always put that in the comments. Let me know what you think, what your questions are. I would be happy to answer. Plenty happy to answer. I know that different people might make comics differently, so not everyone does things the way I'm doing it. Well, obviously. But I'm saying if you don't, but that's kind of the good thing, is that I just recently even learned that I guess the gutter area is supposed to be like 1/4 of an inch thick. None of my areas are that. Well, maybe none of them are intentionally 1/4 of an inch thick, so it doesn't, I mean, all I'm saying is just make the comic. If it's not standard, whatever, it's fine. If you don't know how the rules, and I had to learn this as I went. I made a lot of changes. I didn't know anything about making comics before I started doing this, other than to try my best to tell a good story, which I had to learn how to do that too, and I'm still learning how to do that. What I'm just saying is, don't let lack of information stop you from trying, giving it your best, and just going for it. Because you never know, like, what you'll be able to accomplish if you don't give it a good go. So just give it a good go. Line this one up. Right. And with that said, guys, I'm gonna let you all go. I'm finished with this page. I'll keep working, getting some more pages done. But thank you so much for tuning in with me today. And making a graphic novel with Alicia Dianne art. I am grateful and appreciative of you tuning in with me. So tune in and we will meet again very, very soon. Be grateful, live balanced, be yourself, and make something today. Thanks, guys. See you next time.